Hello everyone, and today I have got a grammar topic for you, which is editing. Now under editing you have two things, omission and error correction. Omission is when a particular word is missing in a line, and error correction is there is a mistake in the line, you have to find out that mistake and write the correct word. In your exams you will be given this kind of a question wherein you will have a small paragraph. In front of each line you will see a blank, which means in that line there is a mistake. Now editing will have only one word mistake. Remember that. Not more than one word. So you have to find out that word in that line, underline it and write the correct answer in the blank. This is how you have to solve error correction. But remember, before you start solving error correction, you need to know all the rules of grammar. Or in other words, you need to know the parts of speech, you need to know the tenses, the voice, the prepositions, conjunctions, articles, determiners, etc. All these rules you need to know. So before doing error correction, brush up your grammar topics and then do this. Only then it will be easy for you to solve this. But for your convenience, I have specially made this video so that I can give you at least 10 tips, 10 small rules which you can easily remember. Now I cannot encompass all the grammar rules here, but I guess even if you remember these 10 points, then it will be easy for you to score at least 80% of the marks in this question. That is, out of 10, you might get 8. So let's start with the session. At first, I will give you those tips that you have to remember. And at the end of this session, I will solve 2 paragraphs along with you live so that you will understand on what lines to think when doing this kind of a question. Another thing is, I have made a separate video wherein I have taken 7 paragraphs of error correction, and the link of that video is given in the description box. Please check that. The exercises solved in that video are from BBC Compacta of class 8th. If you are in class 8th, it will be helpful for you, but otherwise also for other classes, or if you're not following that book particularly, then it can be a practice exercise for you. And in that video also I have solved those questions live with reasons why this particular word is an error and what will replace that word. So let's start with this session. The first step to start solving this kind of exercise is to read the passage. Read the passage 2 times, 3 times, 4 times until you get its clear meaning. Now when you are reading the passage, understand what tense is used there, because generally we follow same kind of tense throughout the passage. If it's in present tense, all the verbs will be more or less or generally in present tense, same with the past or same with the future. So follow the tense. Next is very important thing, that is subject verb agreement. Subject and verb will always match each other. If the subject is singular, the verb will also be singular. If the subject is plural, the verb will also be plural. Have a look at the board and I'll show you what to remember here. Now look here. This is a very simple trick to know what is singular, what is plural, and what kind of helping verbs can be used here. I'm just telling you about helping verbs, but the same logic can be applied to other verbs as well. Okay, now you have I as the subject. With I, you will use am always, never is. So I with am, I was, I were, I do, I have. Remember that even though the subject I is singular, it's about an individual, right? But it is taken as plural, and that is why we write have, not has. Similarly, do, not does. And was and were both come with I, but in different conditions. If you're wishing something, then you will have were. If I were the president of India, that's a kind of wish. Then you will write were. Otherwise, in simple past tense, it will be I was. I was in the market yesterday, right? Now, when it comes to singular or plural, there is one trick that you can remember. With singular, when you have helping verbs like these, is, was, has, does. Now, how do you remember that which helping verb will come with singular subjects? It's very simple. All the helping verbs that end with S, see here, ending with S, will go with singular. So whether it is he, she, it, or somebody's name, you will always write the helping verbs will always end with S. And if there is any other verb, a normal verb, an action word, then also that verb will take an S in case of present tense. That is simple present tense. If it's singular, that verb will take S. If it's plural, the verb will not take S. Right? But now this rule does not apply for plural. But for plural, if it's not singular, then for plural, you don't have to write S. So accordingly, you will have the helping verbs like are, were, have, do. They all fall in the category of plural verbs. They, we, you, and anybody's name will have these kind of helping verbs. This is a very simple trick to understand how the subject and verb go together. Let's go to the next tip. The next tip is that the following categories will always have singular verbs. Categories like any word that ends with buddy, like anybody, somebody, nobody, everybody. Similarly, thing, something, anything, nothing, everything. And in the same way, one, someone, anyone, no one, everyone. So categorize these words. Any word that comes from any of these three categories, it will always take singular verb. Tip number 3. Whenever in the question or whenever in the sentence you have the words has, have, or had, they belong to perfect tense. Make sure that the verb which comes after this is always in the third form, that is V3 form. If there is an error in that verb, make it in V3. And if we are talking about passive voice, with has, have, had, we will always have the word been and then the V3 form of the verb. That leads to the 5th tip. In passive voice, take any kind of tense. The verb will always be in V3. That is the third form of the verb. So take care that you change that verb accordingly. Tip number 6. When you have a or an, there is one rule which we all know. We put a before a word that starts with a consonant sound, and we put an before a word that starts with a vowel sound. So go by the sound of that word, that initial letter, not by actually the letter. For example, MA. MA will take an, not a. You may feel that M is a consonant, but we are not going to take the alphabet. We'll consider the sound that it makes, M. So A is a vowel sound and therefore it will have an before it. Then there are quantifiers like little, a little, the little, few, a few, the few. How are they used? We use little when we are talking about uncountable nouns. Check the noun after it, whether it's countable or uncountable. If it is an uncountable noun, use little. If it is a countable noun, use few. Again, how to distinguish between these three categories. Few or little is used for very small quantity, very negligent quantity. A little or a few is used for little quantity, small, greater than few little, right? And the few and the little is used for all the quantity that we are talking about. The next one is to know the degree of adjectives. Degree of adjectives are positive, comparative, and superlative. Now here, point to be noted is, if there is any adjective which is in the comparative form, then it should be followed by the word than. If any adjective is in the superlative form, then it should have the before it. So these things you have to remember, like the best, the most, okay? But better than, more than, lesser than. So the comparative forms will have than after it and the superlative forms will have the before it. Now next, let's see the simplest prepositions. At, in, on. At is used with time. Whatever you see on a clock will take the preposition at. The letters itself tell you A and T matches time, right? At is also used with a small place before the name of a small place. Now in is used with places that are big. And the last one is on. On is always used with what you see on a calendar. What do you see on a calendar? Day, date. So whenever you have day, date, look for this preposition on before it. If there's anything wrong in those prepositions, correct it. The last tip of this video or this session about error correction is conjunctions. There are certain conjunctions which join two sentences with same ideas, like and. There are certain conjunctions which join two sentences with contrasting ideas, different ideas, like or but. There are many more such conjunctions. So you have to, the simplest one are and, or, but. So these things you need to keep in mind, that whenever and is used, the sentences should match in ideas. Whenever or but is used, the sentences should contrast, or they should be contrasting. Then there is another confusion regarding conjunctions. We have paired conjunctions, or we call them coordinating conjunctions, like not only but also, either or, neither nor, right? So, or so that. Now what happens here is, the first word of this conjunction comes in a sentence, then you have the rest of the sentence, and then the next word comes. So by the time you move to the rest of the sentence, you forget about the first part of that conjunction. Don't do that. Check if it's a paired conjunction. See whether there is no mistake in that. Okay, so these are all the tips that I've given you in short as much as possible. Now let's try to solve two paragraphs, and while solving I will explain the errors in it and in what lines to think about and how to correct them with reasons. So stay with me. Now you can see that in front of each line there are two blanks. One column is of the error and the other column is of the correction. So in the error column we'll write the wrong word, and in the correction column we'll write the correct word. But before we start solving this, let's first read the entire passage and know its complete meaning. Let's start. Health precedes action. There are an undisputed connection among being fit and being our best. A simple rules of 5 helps make exercising a most enjoyable activity. Wake up in 5 a.m., do 5 stretches and 5 yogasanas. Now let's start doing this. You can see that for the first line, an example is already given. Health precedes action. There are an. Now you can see that we have the word an. An will be correct because next word is undisputed, which is a vowel sound word. So the wrong word here is are. Now if we are talking about a single thing, we cannot use are. We have to use is, and that is why the corrected word here is. Let's read ahead. Undisputed connection among being fit and being our best. Now this word among is usually used when we are talking about more than two things. But here it is only two things that are being talked about, being fit and being our best. So instead of among, we will use between. That's the correct preposition to use. A simple rules. Now if we are talking about one singular thing, a simple, then we cannot have rules. So rules is a wrong word. Instead we will have rule. Of 5 helps make exercising a most. Most is a superlative degree, and before the superlative degree we must have the. But here wrong article is used, so the wrong article is a and the correction will be the. The most enjoyable activity, wake up in 5 a.m. Now you can see there's a time here, and I had told you with time we use the preposition at. Therefore in is a wrong word and the correct word will be at. Do 5 stretches and 5 yogasanas. Now after solving this, you have to read the passage again with its correction. so that you understand that the passage has come out properly. Let's read it with the correction. Health precedes action. There is an undisputed connection between being fit and being our best. A simple rule of 5 helps make exercising the most enjoyable activity. Wake up at 5 a.m., do 5 stretches and 5 yogasanas. So this is how you have to do, and then correct the paragraph. Let's move to the second paragraph now. Now the second paragraph will also be done in the same manner as we did the first one. Before we start this, let's read the paragraph first. Banana is an popular fruit and an important part to our diet today. It originally belonged to Southeast Asia and the Indonesian region, where it using to grow wild in the forests. In the years, proper selection and cultivation of different varieties yield the edible banana. Now you can see that there are 2 lines here in front of which there are no blanks. This means that this line has no error. So don't try to find out any error in these 2 lines. Alright, now let's start. The first line is already done, given as an example, but let's read and understand. Banana is an popular fruit. Now what's wrong here? The word popular starts with a consonant sound. So before a consonant sound, we cannot have an, we must have a. So the error here is an and the correction is a. An important part to our diet today. So to is a wrong preposition used here. It should be an important part of our diet. It originally belonged to. Now what they are saying in this line is a fact, and any kind of universal fact always comes in simple present. So belonged is a wrong tense that is used. Instead we will write belongs. So belonged comes under error column, and under correction column we'll write belongs. To Southeast Asia and the Indonesian region. Now this line has no error, so there are no blanks. Where it using to grow wild. Now using to is not correct. So instead of using, it should be used. It used to. Wild in the forests. In the years, proper selection. Now in the years is again wrong. It should be over the years. So in is wrong, but the correct word should be over. Proper selection and cultivation of different varieties yield the edible banana. Yield is again the wrong tense. It should be yielded. So I'm going to write the wrong word in the error column and the correct word here in the correction column. Now we are done. But now let's do the last step. Read the paragraph again with the corrected words. Let's start. Banana is a popular fruit and an important part of our diet today. It originally belongs to Southeast Asia and the Indonesian region, where it used to grow wild in the forests. Over the years, proper selection and cultivation of different varieties yielded the edible banana. So that's where we complete 2 paragraphs as examples. We have also done the tips, the rules that you must follow or must keep in mind so that the error correction becomes simple to you. That's all in today's session. I hope it helped, and don't forget to check that link in the description box of the video in which I have solved 7 such paragraphs for error correction with reasons, with explanation. And I'll see you again in my next video. Till then, take good care of yourself. Signing off for now. Keep smiling. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.